Once again, we return to you, I, Shane, he, Casey, with another edition of 40k Fanatics podcast. This time coming from my house, right around my painting table.
Grimdark paint table, baby.
Right next to the sim racing station, which is adjacent to the flight sim station, which is adjacent to the computer and console game station, and just catty corner to the road cycling indoor station.
About the same size as the Grimdark paint studio.
Adjacent to the entire game room and model displayage.
With our nice little pitch with the 40k Fanatics logo on there.
That's right. With the Blood Bowl pitch, I played. The homie Austin came over yesterday. And,
what'd you guys play this time?
We played a little bit of Blood Bowl, and we did something else that will be folded into our main topic today, which is 40k has gotten better and worse. What we're gonna do is talk a bit about game design, ideas around it, and what I'd like to see from the new Kill Team that's coming out and what they have announced. So I'm kind of excited about that coming at, I think, the end of the year. Kill Team fourth, some new version of Kill Team will be here. But first, we must open up the bits box as we do every week and tell you guys what we've done in the hobby. And don't forget to get in the comments or get on X and tell us about what you yourself have done in the hobby or what you think of the episode. We got a couple of neat comments on the last one.
You were very vocal.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about those, but let's knock out this bits box first.
Shane, what have you been doing in the hobby?
Well, I don't know if you posted them on X yet, but I had been slow on the hobby. Last week I was out of town for the majority of the weekend, and I've had a lot of projects that are in various stages of completion, which always annoys me because you can only do so much at a time, and then you got to wait for stuff to dry. So I've done a lot of piddling, but yesterday I sat down and caught up on some podcasts and knocked out 2 entire models from scratch. I did a Seeker of Slaanesh, which is the test model for the unit in green, and the idea with these. With the homie Valerie's Slaanesh Mono Demon 40k army is they're going to be all kinds of crazy colors, but the style of them is going to be similar throughout, which is a similar thing that I'm doing with the other model that I did, which is for my Age of Sigmar Nighthaunt army, where it's a lot of random colored ghosts, but their styling is all the same, which is nice on one hand, it gives you various different colors to paint, which is always fun. And the other thing is it makes it easy to tell what unit's what. Because in something like Age of Sigmar, where you can get big chunky units of 20, and the difference between that unit of 20 and that unit of 10 is one's got swords and one's got scythes, that can be hard to distinguish.
Yeah, you see it all the time, especially in 40k. Somebody's always got like a squad with, I don't know, like a dot of red on the base rim somewhere, or like a dot of green on another group of base rims, just so you can tell a group of intercessors or orc boys apart.
Yeah, you have this with orc boys because they're kind of all the same.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, I want the ones with the choppas, not the shootas. And so you end up just picking them up and looking close. And, I always say, because people get real caught up in what their paint scheme is going to be.
They do.
I always think, well, what if you just made these guys with red shirts and those guys with blue shirts? They're like, well, that's not the scheme. I'm like, yeah, but it'd make more sense, wouldn't it? Like, yeah. Real armies are uniform because camouflage is kind of a thing, but they're also uniform because they're human-sized and you can see the little insignias on them.
Well, apparently, like when I first heard about the hobby, like back in high school, I heard a lot about people who refused to play each other because their models or their armies were not painted uniform. Have you ever run into that?
No, I've never even heard of such a thing. What does that even mean?
I haven't run into it in a long time. Like, apparently it was some kind of rule called what you see is what you get. And so it's like, oh, here's my Rhino, but I'm going to proxy it for I don't know, like a Vindicator. And it's like, no, dude, you can't do that. Or you're going to paint up, I don't know, some like intercessors, but they're really going to be devastators. And they're like, no, dude, you can't do that.
No, I mean I'm with the rhino not being a vindicator.
Well, yeah. But in a friendly game, you wouldn't care.
I don't know. I might care. I'm the show a-hole. That's my job. What have you painted this week?
Oh boy, I am almost done with Zarek. I got one more thing left to do on him. Put in some hours on him last night, and he'll be done. Started up on a Necron monolith. It's looking pretty nice. Got it about a third of the way done. And then I got another commission already ready to go. I got to go pick it up here later, and I will be painting the new Blood Angels box set for a guy.
You got the new Blood Angels box set for yourself, or did you?
I will be getting it soon.
Splendid.
I physically need it.
Yeah, I look forward to you playing a different army just for fun.
Okay.
Also, I must disclose to the public that since we're at my house, we have the little Roo dog. He is here. His mama is not present. And so a car may pass and he may vocalize most distressingly, "We are not beating the little boy. He is just doing the best he can." So if you guys hear a doggo in distress, he's okay. He's got a heating pad. He's got blankets. He's got food.
He's got a sweater.
He's wearing a shirt. His shoes are in the kitchen in case he needs to go out. Fret not for him, for he is fine. Anyway, I think that's all the bits box I've got because the next chunk is the majority of our main topic.
My last part of my bits box is I've been playing the crap out of Space Marine 2, and there's probably been a couple of you guys who really want us to do a Space Marine 2 review. It's on the back burner, so we'll probably get around to it eventually. We'll see.
Yeah, question about the Space Marine 2 review.
What up?
To the audience, do you actually want a Space Marine 2 review? Do you care about our opinions? Because everybody in the world has made a Space Marine 2 review, and I wonder if...
Yeah.
So
I was wondering as I said it, more people have vocalized to me in person rather than on the comments. Where are you guys at?
Yeah, I wonder because we have not had an outpouring for that. Let's see here. You know what? Let's put this in the bits box. I'm going to comment on some of those comments from last week.
Yeah, you guys were active.
A couple of things. One, it seems like these pods where we talk about more of a topic have been doing better than lore or anything like that. And I think the reason is when we first started, we were new and we were trying to be for new people. Well, now, because 10th edition was just coming out. Now 10th edition's been out a year. Everybody in the world has done lore pods, Primarch backgrounds, and things like that. I wonder if our audience has gotten all that in them already. That's just my speculation. I could be wrong. Next week we could do I don't know who.
The content's out there.
Right. That's the thing. It's out there.
It's out there.
But these other sort of more esoteric ideas are not. And so my comments about the war gear being costed again got a lot of people interested. And it seems like most everybody would like the war gear to cost again.
Right. A lot of that went on. I was surprised, but I was appreciative. I'm like, man, because I really want that to come back.
Somebody made a comment about, well, just wait till they nerf whatever weapon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but they don't do much nerfing of weapons. If anything, they make new weapons that are totally ridiculous.
Do they nerf a lot in Kill Team?
I'm talking about Big 40k.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like they nerf weapons as much as they just crank the cost up on the unit, which is part of the problem that we were discussing, is that I might not be running the cheesiest of cheese loadout on my unit of whoever you say, and yet they're going to price my guys out of existence because y'all can't act right.
Exactly.
But I do like that. You know what someone should do? They should come up with a cost for some war gear and make a big O PDF.
Oh yeah.
And set it up where figure up a base point cost for the unit without weapons, and then figure it out. Then cost the weapons, right? And then I wonder what would happen if we played that way.
You know what's funny? We're saying this. I actually saw somebody on social media just today, actually, they are still playing 3rd edition 40k, like just themselves with the old sculpt firstborn Marines. So
close the bits box.
Yeah, YOLO.
Because what you've done is you just made a good transition into what we're talking about, and another comment that a gentleman made where he wanted to have a little walkthrough time.
Yeah.
From 3rd edition through 10th, the changes that came with the various editions and what we think about them compared to modern 40k. Now, that is a really good idea. It would probably make a nice series. It would require an amount of research.
The models would be cheap.
Yeah, the models would be cheap. I mean, I don't think we need to play them, but I mean, just I don't even know where you would begin to research that, because I came in toward the end of 9th edition. I believe you started at 8th, 5th. You played 5th, or you knew about 5th?
Yeah, I tried a couple games of 5th, and I played it a little bit back in high school when I was 16, I believe.
You could. I do not believe you were playing correctly.
Well, I had older guys to show me how to do it in the store that is no longer there. And interesting enough, somebody in our community actually gave me a 5th edition Orc Codex from back in the day, and I almost cried in the game store because it was my first experience, reading and looking at things. So it's really cool.
Precious.
But yeah,
I came in.
What are they called? The blast
templates.
Yeah, those. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love shooting rockets and just.
So we're not going to do that, but what we are going to do is I'm going to tell a little story about what happened yesterday when the homie Austin came over.
Hit him.
We tried to make a game. We got to talking over a game of Blood Bowl last week about if we could make an. We've been very into aliens lately with the Alien Romulus out, and we still haven't quite got our itch fully scratched for alien content.
And you've even been playing the game.
Yeah, we both played through Alien Isolation again. I mean, not a second time since the last time we talked about it. If you're a repeat listener, I hope you are, subscribe and whatnot. But we thought there is a place for a survival type mission objective based game, not a skirmish, for Alien. And I've seen people adapt things like the game Space Hulk to Alien, and it works a little bit. But the problem is and there is a game that are based off of Aliens, the second movie. Now, I and Austin don't care much for the second movie. Reason being, it's not a monster movie like the first one, like Romulus, like the first Predator.
They're all over us, man.
Exactly, but the problem is there's a lot of aliens, and the humans have got a way to kill a lot of aliens.
It's more of an action-y.
It's an action movie,
military movie.
Yeah, it's like a war movie.
Yeah,
it's a totally different thing. And there are games that do the blips coming, and it spawns a bunch of aliens, and you shoot them to death, like in Space Hulk. Which is fine, but that is not the experience that we wanted.
Because the playing field is level. They have guns. In the first game, she got a flamethrower. Like the last 10 minutes of the movie,
right? And all that did was scare it a little bit.
Exactly.
So we wanted to make a game where one player plays the alien versus multiple other players playing survivors. And yesterday we'd done a week of fiddling with a shared note, coming up with concepts, ideas, and we got some stuff that would really be fun. And then we sat down to start trying to put it together and play it. And decisions that we made and that were then required to change got me thinking about the new version of Kill Team, and then that that gentle person's comment on the differences that there's sort of the way that the Big 40K has developed over time, and how those game design ideas have been informed and changed over time. And so I've got a couple of things, not so much a list, but things that I invite your comment
upon. Top 5
list. Yeah, it's not a top 5 list, but it's a few things that I want to talk about that I would like to see in the new Kill Team, and a couple of things about 40K that's different from 9th to 10th that and why I think they're just objectively better. And then I've got a little bit of what we discovered and why ultimately we've abandoned that. We've largely abandoned that project. So, first of all, in the new kill team, I want to see less bloat. This was a thing that we did
Need less salt.
Yeah, we need less salt, less bloat. The kill team 2nd edition line of sight rules are ridiculous.
Really?
They're so complicated. They're just hard to conceptualize. And every ability is a paragraph of stuff written in legal jargon. And that is obnoxious. But
I feel you.
It is a requirement to have it that way, because I think that we're in an era now where a lot of miniature hobbyists were video game players or are video game players. And they expect, when they hear the word game, for a game to be me versus you in some sort of reasonable conflict, direct conflict. And there was a time, and 40k began this way, where there was a game master player. Because what we found as we were trying to figure out how strong the alien should be, how he should operate blips and be in the vents and then come down, and how deadly is he going to be, things like that. As we were playing with that idea, we kept running into, this is a whole lot easier if it's a role-playing game.
Ooh.
And the game master is trying to cultivate an experience for the other players. Versus, this is a balanced fight between multiple people and the alien. And I'll get into that in a minute. But back to the less bloat. The reason why the kill team rules have to be so bloated is because it's established that this is supposed to be a fair fight against people.
Equal playing field.
Yes. But the fair fight part, it's like codified that there's no amount of understanding between the players. You know what I'm saying? It's this mentality that if it doesn't say I can't, then I can. And I
Technically right is the best kind of right, Shane.
Well, it's a terrible way to try to play a game, make a game, keep the game straight. Because I feel like if a cover system, the Judge Dredd cover system is funny this way. It's like, if you're near a piece of terrain,
yeah,
and it's in the way, you got cover.
Yeah, there you go.
And there's like light cover, heavy cover. And the rules in so many words are, you'll know it when you see it. And while that is super gray and obnoxious, what you're encouraged to do is just give cover wherever you think it might be. Right? Because that game's pretty deadly, just like Kill Team. But as soon as you go and you start to codify this word by word, comma by comma law, you take all that away. And now you're like, well, if you're within 1 inch, then your character cuts out a 1 inch, an additional 1 inch diameter circle around his model that he can see through the cover. That way, he shooting around a corner is not giving you cover by you being 12 feet past the corner, because you see what I'm saying here?
This is why I rely on Shane as the game master.
Well, but these are decisions that have come over time. Because if you go back, I looked at the White Dwarf book. The Homie Austin's got the White Dwarf book.
Oh, yeah?
And it might as well be written in hieroglyphs.
Oh.
It is crazy looking. But it is like a role-playing game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It says that you can have two armies fighting, but you also need a third person to dictate how stuff is going to go.
Yeah, and that's essentially how 40k started, too. It was role-playing.
Right. And so there's a bunch of...
The farm.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of figure it out, guys. You're playing together. But that's a drastically different philosophy of game design. So now we're in 10th edition. Now we're going to be in Kill Team
we're in the future.
3rd. We're in the future. And not for nothing, the public is the public. Where I and Austin have a strong we've got a strong lineage to some D&D. To some role-playing games. I'm always happy to just try out my random bunch of guys versus your random bunch of guys and see what the game makes of that.
You know what I found out? I'm a murder hobo.
Yeah, I believe you would be.
I don't really know 100% what that is because I haven't played it enough, but yeah.
But new stuff that's coming to the new Kill Team that I like is there's going to be general equipment.
Oh,
which this is going to add to the less bloat. Before you'd have your whole kill team and all the selections you had to make. Then you'd have to pick out by way of drawing cards and picking out of a limited draw your secondaries. Then you'd have 10 points of equipment, and every kill team had different equipment, so you'd be explaining to somebody what the heck your piece of equipment does. Now you just have general equipment, and I like that because it was so... I'm kind of the kill team player in town.
He is.
And I always find that every time I teach someone kill team, they never fail to experience a myriad of just gotchas. Because though I explain, the first thing I always explain is the line of sight system and the cover and all that, because that's the most complicated thing to get your head around. Then that informs where some character may be at least reasonably safe. I hit my microphone.
It's getting heated.
But then the problem is, all those big chunky abilities that I told you about, all the various weapon special rules and things, and it just becomes where you would need to know the game and have a whole briefing on what this other person can do before you could reasonably play against somebody in the sort of fair and balanced way that the game promises to give you, which is obnoxious to me. So hopefully they are solving that, and it looks that way because it looks a little less bloated on the new data cards and abilities that I've seen.
Yeah, go ahead and pre-order all your Vespid Sting Wings and other kill teams and see what you can do.
I mentioned this last week, but they also are going to have a different action sync, which I'm glad to see.
Oh. I
mentioned to you about the how I hate I Go You Go.
Yes.
Which I saw in the comments. Somebody wants 40k 11th to be I Go You Go.
Yeah.
Stop it. Alternating activations is what I mean, not I Go You Go. It is I Go You Go. I don't want that. That's terrible. Reason being, action sync mechanics are always crap, if you ask me. I don't like them. So different things. You end up with these different concepts when you're building any game. And look, I'm not the official on this stuff. Austin and I tried to build a game and we failed. But I don't think that was for lack of ideas or concepts. I think that was a
fun way to spend a Saturday.
What we found was the difficulty of this sort of asymmetric thing that we were making is because those sort of experiences do exist. Like, in fact, I ordered it today because the game that we wanted to play has already been made. It's called Don't Look Back by Blacksite Studios. And it's an 80s slasher movie survival game. But it has some rules for someone to play the killer. But for the most part, and the way the game was released initially, because those are like add-on rules, the creature is ran by AI. It's ran by a system. No one actually plays the creature. And the reason that is, and we found that this was going to have to be the case with our Alien game, was that...
Call me a Leonardo DiCaprio meme because you had my interest, and now you have my curiosity.
Yeah, well, I've got the whole starter set on the way, so we're going to be playing that.
Nice.
But what we found was, when the asymmetry gets so tilted, where it's 1 versus many, 1 versus 3 between 1 versus 7, let's say, that's what we were dealing with. because that's about how many survivors would be on the spaceship that the alien's trying to kill. The alien is so on the edge of tuned, where if it's too powerful, it chops through 5 people instantly, and it's no fun for anyone.
Well, kind of like when we played Space Marine 2, the board game.
That's right. If it's too weak, then the characters have no problem going around the ship and doing what they need to do. And then you take into the account, so that's one place where the balance breaks of the power of the alien. The other problem is, let's say I've played 4 or 5 times and I'm playing the alien, so I know sort of how the game works. And you've never played and you play the alien. Well, our own skill of the game can be so disparate that if it's balanced for 1 alien versus 5 people with a pretty good player, it may be a total walkover if you're not a pretty good player as the alien. So it just doesn't work. Or it doesn't work very well as a straight up competitive sort of thing. And so that requires a fundamental change in philosophy of the game, where it's like, well, now we got to come up with a whole different system for this thing to operate on its own, and then we can concentrate on surviving the game. Brings me to a couple of changes that are a little bit philosophical from 9th to 10th, which is the experience that I have per our lovely commenters' desire for a bit of what we think about some changes. And the 2 that I put down, just to talk about briefly, attached characters versus auras. That one right there, I think, was huge.
That's a hot take.
It's so much better to have the characters attached to the units. I don't understand how you could possibly... someone show me otherwise. Was it fun trying to make sure that your epic hero was not the closest target to anybody so that Lookout Sir would protect him? Because it made all the difference in the world. There's one little cultist standing in front of him versus not. Did that make sense to anyone? Was it fun to be trying to group as many qualifying units as possible around the guys and then trying to measure out to see who's in the aura every time you move something? Was that fun?
Man, I hated Lookout Sir so freaking much in 9th. It drove me insane.
Yeah, I mean, ninth was hard for a number of reasons, and the other one is that the mental load was so high, which is the second thing that I have that 100%. Changed.
You'd have like paragraphs.
Yeah, you would have paragraphs of abilities, but the other thing is I put down here, long developing army/detachment rules. When I started playing 40k in 9th edition, I was playing Chaos Space Marines, just playing bog standard Black Legion, and you had Let the Galaxy Burn and something else, and one of those was the army rule and the other was your detachment rule. And the army rule was like your 3 phases of combat doctrines type thing. So you had the one you start on, and then you could choose to move on to the second one. And then after so long, it would move to the third one. Each of these is a paragraph long. Each of these affected different weapon types. So you got to keep track of all your various weapon types. And then the army rule had to do with, I think it had to do with shooting and fighting. The closest thing to you may have been what it was. And it was just, it was a full page typed. And I had it in the front of my 3-ring binder with all of my battle scribed data sheets, when some of those were as long as your arm. And it was so much to keep track of. It's no wonder why the game devolved into, let's just buy the most expensive gun line we can, line them up and shoot. Looking at you, Tau suits. Looking at you, guard tanks.
I was about to say guardsmen.
Yeah, looking at you, various Aldari shooty stuff. And then in 10th edition, they're like, okay, what if you just have like one thing you do?
There you go.
And I say to that, thank you very much. The army rules are largely simple, and the detachment rules get more or less complex depending on what they are. But then that's the only complexity that you've got to keep track of, and it usually maintains through the entire game.
And you've played against me. With orc players, you have things that do all kinds of different stuff. Like when I run my bubble checka, it's got rules, but when I run all my other stuff, it's pretty much similar. You know, a shooter is a shooter. Everything's the same on every, model and weapon kit, But in 9th, it was like everything does something different. I had to be like had to have a PhD just to run my own army.
It was hard. And that's what I mean, like, bloat and philosophy. There can be depth in complexity, there's no doubt. But you got to ask yourself, like we did trying to make the Alien game, is this the game you want to play? Is this even fun? Because what we found was with our Alien game, we played with these ideas of blips. And we played with this idea that you could use one of your two actions to like check your scanner. And then that would keep the blips honest. And the alien player would move their blips around. And then we thought, well, I don't know if that works too well. So we abandoned that. But then the blips were just on the table. And it became blip moving the game. And we thought, well, let's see what it's like. Let's see what it's like if you reveal the blips on sight of the blips. So you can go around a corner and you see the blip, and is it the alien? Is it not? The alien player can decide those types of things. Mm-hmm. Or maybe the alien player has a marker that has the alien on it. Then he's got decoy ones.
Then what happened?
We found that all you had to do was camp doors as the alien. Yeah, if you just sat at the corner of a door, then you would force the blip reveal and kill the guy. And it was no good at all. The second thing we discovered was that you could just sacrifice your less important people every time. And that would work to reveal the blips and thereby clear the blips. And it was just blip moving the game. There was no incentive for the alien to ever be on the table. And that wasn't fun. And so at some point, it's like, we had a good system. We used a 12-sided dice with a 2-part system for a check. And the idea was you had a search / it was the same for combat too. So it was like a search and a hit. So if you wanted to, and then the second part is a wound / do the task. So if the mission is reset the comms, then you take your guy and you run him into the comms room, and then you could do the action. And so you'd roll a d12, trying to match or beat your comms skill. And the idea is you've run into the room and you're trying to figure out where the panel is it on, yada yada. And then the second roll, which is usually easier, is the difficulty of the task. Because the idea is the ship's dark and everything's moving around, and you're scared, yada yada. And that worked really good. That was really fun. What was not fun was shoving the alien around until he drops down, moves his couple of inches, contacts somebody, and almost invariably kills them. Because that's what they do. And then it was blip moving the game again. And it felt like checkers for the alien player. It was terrible. It's like, well, it's way more fun to be the guys running around trying to fix the power and do this and yada yada. Yeah, it was way more fun to do that.
Emergency meeting.
Exactly. We even came up with an idea where someone could be a traitor, so they could go and put in a comms thing on their own time. And
seems pretty sus.
And then they would be sus, and that would like lock in their win condition of help the alien kill everybody. But we never got that far because as long as the alien was going to be player controlled, it was junk. And so we decided that's not even a game we want to play. And many times throughout Kill Team and 40k, it seems that people have asked themselves, and I think this is the big takeaway from all of this discussion, and I want to know what you guys think about some of these things. Have you ever tried to make your own game? It's harder than it looks because it didn't take very long to realize that all I got to do is camp these doors, which didn't feel very scary or interesting. But you got to ask, is this a game worth playing? Is something like 9th edition 40k, where it's just evidently needlessly complicated? Was that the philosophy that made sense? I think probably not. But you don't know till you try it for a while. And also, we sit here in the future with years of development on this thing. You know, game design is clearly, this is evident in the Space Marine versus Space Marine 2. I played Space Marine 1 recently, hated it because it was old and janky. And the new one...
And we're in the future.
Yeah, we're in the future, and it's slick and polished. We only got to be slick and polished because we were once old and janky. We stand upon the shoulders of giants. That's how me and Austin, just a couple of goons, were able to put together some fairly well-thought-out systems for the majority of the thing.
Alien the board game coming soon.
No, it's not.
Brought to you by 40k Fanatics. I don't even know who owns Alien, so I don't know who's going to sue us.
I mean, I don't think anybody, because believe you me, we've not made any money off of any of this. If you would like to become a Patreon, no, we don't have that yet. But we do want to hear from you guys. Get on the X, get on the YouTube comments, and let us know what you think about this stuff. I tell you something that I would like to see return.
What's that?
I kind of would like... I would kind of like firing arcs to return to vehicles in 40k.
Ooh, yeah.
I think that would be cool. I don't want to see the toughness chart come back where a bolt gun cannot wound a vehicle, because with the change of toughness that we had recently in 10th edition, where the toughness scaling increased, we already kind of have that. Like, you get some real skew-less stat check things if people bring a bunch of tanks, and it is not supposed to be World of Tanks. That is not what 40k is, in my opinion. So these heavily mechanized armies, I don't think are in the spirit of the thing. Perhaps there should be a limit on how many vehicles
I think you can get
could be taken.
40k skins in World of Tanks.
Yes, you can. Which
play Lehman Russ, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Lehman Russ wins the blitz on its own.
Baneblade all day.
Yeah, one Baneblade, whichever side you like, takes over the world. I think that's about the size of it. Also, the reason why our Alien game is not coming is because the same guy that made Don't Look Back has also made a space version called Violent Dark, available on Blacksite Studios. You guys should go check it out. It looks good. And guess what it does? You're the crew of the ship, surviving the various aliens on the ship, and to win, you've got to do various mission action things to fix the ship.
What was the site?
What's that?
What was the site like?
Blacksite Studios is the company that makes it. They make MDF terrain, and it's supposed to be really good. I believe it is also pre-painted. So I don't know anything about that, but I did order the bundle that it's going to come with minis for the survivors, minis for the killers, minis. And the book and all the cards and stuff. So we will be spooky whenever that gets here, just in time for spooky season.
Yeah, October's just around the corner.
Yeah, we'll be little screaming girls out in the woods, hanging on to our boyfriends, as he says, let's hide in that scary house. And she'll say, but the car's right here.
It's the hash-slinging slasher.
That's all I got. I feel that, I don't know, was this helpful in any way to anyone? Was this interesting to anyone? Have you ever tried to make a game? I think this is some stuff we will revisit. Are you excited for new Kill Team? I know I am, unless it's clunky. I am so tired of clunky Kill Team. I played it at first because It was one of the first miniatures games besides Big 40k that I tried because honestly, Kill Team's very easy to play if you're into 40k because you already have models for it. It's a good idea. However, I think it's trying too hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You don't want to put too much stuff out there there is a saying that you're trying too hard.
So I think the problem is skirmish games is somewhat what we're talking about. Kill Team is a skirmish game that doesn't exactly know what it wants to do. Whereas Star Wars Shatterpoint, Marvel Crisis Protocol know exactly what they're trying to do. They sort of create how should I describe this? They create this arena that is very one-dimensional. Every time you play Shatterpoint, even with different characters and stuff, they do different stuff, but the way the whole thing feels is always largely the same. When you play Marvel Crisis Protocol, it's the same kind of thing. It's the same company and same sort of concepts. It always feels like you're playing that game. No matter the matchups, no matter what. Kill Team feels like two legitimately different factions playing against each other. And that at once is cool, and at once requires a whole lot of rules on both sides to make that work. And then when you try to say, not only is this going to work, but it's also going to be very tight and competitive and theoretically balanced, I think you start asking for a lot. And that's where you get into these things where it's just, again, I don't know if needless is the word, but it feels needlessly complicated if you're only but so much worried about who wins. You got a exclusive Space Marine segment for us to wrap?
Yes, I do. Shane.
I want to ask for one.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I want to ask for one.
Ask for one. See if I know it.
As a Blood Angels guy.
As a Blood Angels guy,
He just got a new model.
Yeah.
He's got a big axe.
Totally. Oh, Astorath?
Astorath.
Yeah.
Is it true that after the Blood Angels succumb to the Blood Rage, the Black Rage,
yes,
that they finish the battle,
and
then he comes through and executes them all?
As it is his duty as the High Chaplain of the Blood Angels to kill any brother of the sanguinary bloodline that have fallen to the Black Rage, and those that they can't, they put them in the tower.
That's wild. Do they stand and let this happen, or does he just come through and...
Well, as it's part of his office, they kind of do. But there have been other chapters in the Sanguinary Brotherhood who have not exactly been kosher with it. My boy of the Flesh Tears, Gabriel Seth, actually got into a fight with him, and they both proceeded to beat the brakes off of each other. So, yeah, not always kosher.
Astorath got to be a real one if he's just taking out these insane Space Marines.
He's scary, dog. He's scary.
Maybe we'll talk about him next week.
Dope.
I've been Shane Ness. Case you get in the comments and let us know what you think about any of this stuff.
Stay fanatical, folks.